With the state that Call of Duty as a franchise finds itself in today in the year 2025, and how the entire internet seemingly has gone against it due to justifiable reasons and the lack of competence on the part of Activision, I think it's important to remember in times like these exactly why it is that we care so much about this kind of franchise. Because at the end of the day, we have to remember that it's not just hating on Call of Duty because hating on Call of Duty is the cool thing to do. It's not necessarily because we want to hate, but it's more because we want to give constructive criticism so that way the franchise can go back to what it used to be. So that's why I want to make this video today. So if you guys enjoy this kind of video, please go ahead and drop a like in the like button down below, and also subscribe with the notification bell turned on so you guys can stay up to date with the latest and greatest content, including Call of Duty, which we're going to be talking on today. So without further ado, let's talk about the top things that I like from each multiplayer-centric Call of Duty game, starting all the way back with the original 2007 Call of Duty Modern Warfare. So with this one of the best things that this game had to provide was the prestige mode and creator class, obviously being one of the amazing things in this game, introducing such a staple to the franchise that encourages players to complete challenges and have an experiment with different playstyles in order to go ahead and better themselves as they have something to work towards. Prestige modes also unlocked various rewards such as specific gold camos on different weapons. Not all weapons, because this was back before it was actually a specific thing. You couldn't actually just customize the camo slots on all your weapons back in the day. There weren't really any camo options, but Call of Duty with prestige mode and creator class really set the foundation to what a lot of multiplayer games to even this day actually tried to emulate. Moving on to Call of Duty World at War, a lot of people don't even really remember this, but Call of Duty World at War was actually the first game to introduce vehicles. That is right, ladies and gentlemen, Call of Duty World at War had the iteration that introduced playable tanks into the franchise's multiplayer, and while a lot of people did enjoy it, it was actually a very rudimentary form of vehicle play. If you wanted to play vehicles back in the day in a multiplayer game, you would typically have chosen a different game such as Battlefield or Halo for that instance, but we cannot forget that another amazing thing that we still enjoy to this day that Call of Duty World at War is responsible for is the Zombies mode, kicking off the beginning of a very long and continuous story that is still unfolding to this very day in Black Ops 6. Call of Duty World at War really kicked things off with a simple passion project that was made by the developers at Treyarch and evolved into what it is now as a staple mode for the Call of Duty franchise. Moving forward to Modern Warfare 2, I think it's safe to say that was the favorite for a very long time, including myself, and this one introduced Spec Ops, one of the game modes that we don't really see around too much nowadays. It doesn't have the same sort of wow factor as it probably did back then, but Spec Ops was one of those modes that revolutionized the way that you could play couch game modes with your family members or whoever friends that you had visiting over. You could just sit down, relax, and go into a Spec Ops mode, try to get 3 stars, try to unlock as many challenges as you possibly can. Modern Warfare 2 also introduced multiple weapon attachments with the bling perk. This was something that a lot of people nowadays especially take for granted. I mean, nowadays, for crying out loud, you can have what, up to I think 8, maybe even 10 attachments on a single weapon in BO6. However, back in MW2, the OG from 2009, just having 2 attachments was considered mind-blowing. A lot of people would run the Scar H with a heartbeat sensor and a noob tube, for crying out loud. This was the golden era of people experimenting with all these different things that nowadays we take for granted. But aside from all of that, they also introduced calling cards and emblem challenges. So this was something that, again, people nowadays take for granted because not really everyone cares so much about the calling cards or emblems, because nowadays everyone's more focused on how their soldier looks. But back then, there was no soldier customization, so emblems and calling cards were the only way that you could actually express the way that you wanted to express yourself, and the challenges required to do these were the most fun things to hop on and complete with your friends to try to go ahead and get exactly the calling card that you wanted to go ahead and wear and show off to others. We then progressed to Call of Duty Black Ops 1, which standardized the gold camo as an unlockable after every weapon rather than just on a handful of weapons like Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare 1 did. With Black Ops 1, it was one of the first few games to breach the Call of Duty into a brand new era that wasn't modern or the distant past in World War II. Instead, it takes us to that kind of midway point right after World War II in the Cold War, where we had this weird gap that kind of felt like an abridgment between Call of Duty World at War and also Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and for the first time introduced us to a lot of our fan favorite characters such as Mason and Woods. But speaking of fan favorite characters, who can forget about the next year, 2011's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, which wrapped up the ending to a beloved trilogy with the Modern Warfare trilogy of the original days in Call of Duty, and also introduced us to Survival Mode, one of the most underrated game modes in Call of Duty history. Survival Mode is one of those game modes that you could just go in and play, even if you didn't have any internet connection, and just have a great time. I mean, no one was really going to go ahead and mess around with you there. It was just to see who can get the highest scores. There were challenges associated with that as well. So bring into account the fact that you could unlock calling cards, the fact that you had your own different leveling systems, and then bring your friends over, and it was just a whole lot of fun trying to complete that, as well as the Spec Ops missions that it brought over. So not only did it have survival, but it had Spec Ops campaign and multiplayer. All in all, Call of Duty MW3 was definitely one of those first few games that introduced such a varied amount of game mode offerings. And followed up by Call of Duty Black Ops 2, the game released in 2012, of which was the very first Call of Duty game set in the near future of 2025, ladies and gentlemen. That is the current year right now, and also introduced us to customizable campaign loadouts. For the longest time, every single time you guys wanted to play on the campaign missions, you guys already went in with the preset loadout, and if you didn't, then by the time you spawn into the game would kind of like naturally force you into these scenarios where you had the choices to either pick up enemy weapons or maybe pick up some weapons that you found like in a stash somewhere in the games, and they really didn't allow for much creativity in regards to how you wanted to approach the situation. Maybe you wanted to play a sniper, maybe you wanted to go in guns blazing. You didn't really have that choice, but with Black Ops 2 you did. And with the game being split between the past and the future of 2025 and the flashback missions playing as Alex Mason, you really had a lot of varied weaponry, so it gave you the best of both worlds. Felt like you were playing Black Ops 1 and also Black Ops 3 at the same time. And I know it's a weird comparison to say because Black Ops 3 hadn't been out yet, but I'm trying to say like past and future. On the other side, Call of Duty Black Ops 2 also introduced one of the mainline staples in the Black Ops franchise to this day, or at least it was, but no longer, the Pick 10 system. For the longest time, this was the best way to let players just go all out, balls to the walls, crazy with their loadouts. You want to go ahead and make yourself a knife-only class with all these perks and wildcards that were introduced? Go for it. Give yourself 6 perks. Go ahead and give yourself this one shotgun with diamond camo, a bunch of ninja perks, and try to get those ninja diffusals as much as you can. It also allowed for players to go ahead and, for the first time ever, unlock diamond camo, a step above the golden camo, which was standardized in Black Ops 1. Diamond camo was really that step above that really helped show off to whoever you were playing with or against that you were there to mean business. And as if things could not get any better, Call of Duty Black Ops 2, for better or for worse, also introduced the very first ever DLC weapon in the form of the Peacekeeper, as well as DLC reticles and camos in the form of the Bacon 115 and much more varied camos that to this day are still worth just pennies on the dollar pretty much. Fast forward past Black Ops 2 and then we hit Call of Duty Ghosts. This one was a very divisive game. For the first time ever, Call of Duty had always been, since COD 4 all the way up to Call of Duty Ghosts, featured their player count proudly displayed on the multiplayer main menus. However, this game was considered to be the first flop, I guess you could say, and the beginning of the downfall from the golden era of Call of Duty into the jetpack era of Call of Duty. However, this game was like the middle black sheep that was just in between those two eras, and unfortunately Call of Duty Ghosts did not actually hit audiences the way that Activision expected, and this was the game that made a lot of players want to quit and go back to Black Ops 2. However, that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about the top things that I enjoy. So Call of Duty Ghosts, for the first time, you could say that it had very fun and creative DLCs. Call of Duty had this thing called field orders back in the day that were challenges that you could pick up on the battlefield, and if you completed the challenges, you would be able to call in a care package that gave you a special kind of power-up. And the DLC maps really had really creative power-ups. There was one of them set in the jungle near a temple that let you play as Predator, which was insane. You had like the claws, you had the shoulder-mounted blaster as well, and there was another one in like a horror Halloween map that let you play as Michael Myers, with the music playing as you ran around with the axe, and you had a lot of health as well. It was like a juggernaut, basically. Chilling out on a Saturday night, just playing Michael Myers on a multiplayer map in Call of Duty Ghosts. Good times indeed. Fast forward after that to the beginning of the jetpack era, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. In my opinion, one of my most beloved games, but one of the most overall underrated games in the Call of Duty franchise. Call of Duty Advanced Warfare was made by the first-time developer studio, Raven Software, and even though they actually did help in creating Modern Warfare 3 after the whole fallout between Activision and Infinity Ward developers, it actually ended up being that Raven Software would earn their own staple as one of the top 3 developers for the Call of Duty franchise. And Call of Duty Advanced Warfare was the very first product of this new development studio. So what did Call of Duty Advanced Warfare had? They introduced exo movement. So for the first time ever, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, instead of taking a distant futuristic approach, instead of going back to the past, they took a futuristic approach, but they wanted to make it as realistic as possible. I remember in the marketing leading up to the release and announcement of Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, they actually would talk about how they would consult with all these military experts around the world in order to see what technology would realistically look like by the time the near future hit. And exosuits was the answer. They obviously took some liberties to go ahead and make it game-centric, because Call of Duty is an arcade game after all, but they had exo movements, which added an entirely brand new layer of verticality into Call of Duty. People were previously used to looking left to right to left to right. Now all of a sudden you have to go left to right, up and down, because people were jumping and dashing and boosting all over the place. But also customizable score streaks, something that I've been begging for them to return, but has just not happened. It happened to an extent in Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, but it wasn't quite the same thing. Call of Duty Advanced Warfare let you literally customize your score streaks the same way you can customize your weapons to this day. So you could add attachments, and depending on what attachments you guys would add, it would increase the amount of score that you had to earn in the match for you to earn these score streaks. On top of that, it also introduced weapon tiers. Again, for better or for worse, this was something that did vary the playing pool in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare and made people want to have something to look forward to, because a lot of these weapon rarities that were on the higher end were unlockable via Prestige mode, making Call of Duty Advanced Warfare a pioneer in more ways than one. Fast forward after that to Call of Duty Black Ops 3. So the reasoning as to why this jetpack era really started taking off is because for the longest time in the golden era of Call of Duty, a lot of Call of Duty haters at the time, or even just people in general, started to say that the franchise started to feel very stale and bland. It's always the same game, just a different setting every single year, so how can you go ahead and keep things fresh? Well, introduce a few jetpacks here and there, and now suddenly everyone's complaining about how every jetpack game feels the same. Enter Call of Duty Black Ops 3, the answer to Advanced Warfare, saying, you know what, despite the fact that Advanced Warfare introduced advanced movement, we're gonna go ahead and perfect it. Introducing also the specialist system, which allowed for players to play as a select group of characters, and for the first time in the Call of Duty series, really have an identity for who you're playing as. No longer are you playing as just random operator number 57, now you're playing as an actual character with lore and backstory, and the looks and specialty movesets of this character are actually defined by the character's backstory. Say for example, you're playing as Ruin, you got the gravity spikes. You want to play as a death machine wearing robot, then you can go ahead and play as that as well. Call of Duty Black Ops 3 really went ahead balls to the walls and said, you guys want customization, you guys want to go ahead and have some fun, you guys want to see something new with Call of Duty, and here it is. Wall running, also added the thrusters that allowed you to go ahead and boost from side to side, the dashes. It wasn't as powerful as Advanced Warfare, and it balanced it just enough to where people were actually able to aim at the person that you were trying to take down and realistically go on a high streak. Call of Duty Black Ops 3 also perfected the Zombies mode, known and to date as one of the best Zombies mode releases ever, with also the introduction of the next layer past Diamond in the form of Dark Matter camo. And I know some of you guys might be saying, but Emanigan, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare introduced the royalty camo, and yes it did, but hey, Dark Matter is the one that we still have to this day. Dark Matter is the one that a lot of people do remember, especially over royalty camo. So moving after this, we go ahead and take it one step further with Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, the first game set in space, and so far the only game set in space where we went so far into the future that it felt like Call of Duty was trying to compete with Halo, and Halo was over there trying to compete with Call of Duty by introducing their own version of aiming down the sights with Halo 5. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare was one of those games that was very experimental in more ways than one. It was the classic Call of Duty franchise formula, but with a twist. It felt like Black Ops 3 with a space skin. A lot of people didn't really get too turned on by this game. A lot of people actually turned away, and after seeing the decline in popularity by this game, also being one of the most disliked videos on the entirety of YouTube for the longest time, Activision kind of said, you know what, it's time to go ahead and pull the emergency lever, and they also released Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered alongside this title. But the only way you guys would be able to get Modern Warfare Remastered was by pre-ordering Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. So a lot of people actually did do that and ended up playing Modern Warfare Remastered instead, because they just wanted to play something that was more akin to the classic Call of Duty experience, and what better way to do it than by playing a classic game such as Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare Remastered. Moving onwards from Infinite Warfare, we dive back to Boots on the Ground, the first game to bring it all back down. People were super excited for this. Call of Duty World War II, a return to form, back to the roots, back to formula for Call of Duty. Suddenly, we were back again in Boots on the Ground era combat, and while this game did try to experiment in a lot of different ways as well, introducing divisions, introducing the Call of Duty HQ, but back then this meant something completely different. Nowadays, Call of Duty HQ is like the central hub to launch your games from. Back then, the headquarters in Call of Duty World War II was simply a hub, kind of like how Destiny had their own hub, where you could walk around and see other online players as well, and open loot boxes in front of other people, so that way they could be encouraged to buy some loot boxes as well. The game was very interesting and experimental in its own ways, while also at the same time clashing with the forum, returning back to basics. Call of Duty World War II will live on as that one game that was really good at what it wanted to be, but not good at what it needed to be. Enter Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Call of Duty Black Ops 4, while being a very strange twist, felt like it was really leaning into the whole hero shooter. This was in the year 2018. One of the most popular games out at that time was Overwatch, which released back in 2016. However, Overwatch really had a grip on the gaming community at the time, and Call of Duty wanted to go ahead and cash in on some of that Overwatch hype. So with Call of Duty Black Ops 4, they scrapped their campaign and they doubled down on their hero shooter system. However, when test audiences started disapproving of how the gameplay was actually performing, Call of Duty kind of panicked a little bit, and they went back and tried to make it as classic feeling as possible, and what we ended up getting was a weird amalgamation known as Call of Duty Black Ops 4, where no longer were you able to go to the extent of customization as previous games, but rather now everything was really centered around this ultimate system. You had your lethal, and then you had your healing factor. So for the healing factor, for the first time in Call of Duty franchise, you couldn't go ahead and automatically heal, at least in multiplayer terms, because I know some of the classic Call of Duty games like COD 1 didn't have automatic healing either, but this time around you needed to carry an injector the entire way through, and you had to think more than once before going in and attacking your opponents, and also introduced the idea that your opponents were now spawning with so much health that if you really wanted to go into a gunfight, you better have those extended mags equipped. But while the multiplayer was causing waves in more ways than one, the Zombies Arena was actually the first Call of Duty game to launch with 4 round-based zombies maps. The remake of 5 from Call of Duty Black Ops 1, Blood of the Dead, which was a continuation of the story featured in Call of Duty Black Ops 2's Mob of the Dead, 9, and also Voyage of Despair, which were the 2 maps that introduced the brand new zombie story in the Chaos Crew. However, now we know in Black Ops 6 timeline that this is no longer the new zombie story, and it all got integrated into the same Dark Ether zombie story. But moving on from here, we've got Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019. And Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 felt like a very refreshing way to go ahead and play Call of Duty again. After Black Ops 4 felt like such a weird experimental game that had zombies, multiplayer, and had also introduced Battle Royale in the form of Blackout, it felt like Modern Warfare 2019 tried to perfect it with the introduction of features and game modes such as Warzone, which is to this day one of the most popular and profitable game modes out there, being free to play, and also a very streamlined version of what Blackout was trying to be with the Battle Royale. Modern Warfare 2019 was also a refreshing retelling of the classic Call of Duty with a modernized take, and also introduced a seasonal content model with the Battle Pass that replaced the previous map pack drops. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 is and always will be one of those Call of Duty games that really reinvigorated the franchise and gave it new life, because up until then the Call of Duty franchise was on a decline, not too dissimilar to what we're seeing now. But Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War being the next game to follow it up at this point in time we're all in full pandemic mode, and while everyone's staying indoors, Call of Duty is emphasizing the next evolution in their guns up model. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, in more ways than one, was one of those games that, despite being set in a time before the Modern Warfare era, and also before Black Ops 2, which is also set in the near future, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War made it feel like, instead of being boots on the ground, now suddenly it was knees and butts to the ground, because everyone was out there sliding with their guns up. Every single time you threw a grenade, your gun stayed up. Everything you did, your weapon stayed up, and it was always ready for combat. The fast-paced nature of the game really attracted a lot of viewers and also helped explode Call of Duty's popularity into a game mode that felt very arcade and addicting, the perfect formula for Call of Duty to move on forward. While also experimenting with a brand new zombies game mode in the form of Outbreak, open world zombies, a lot of people really felt like this could be something that, if taken care of properly, Call of Duty could be seen the next step in evolution for their zombies game mode. Enter Call of Duty Vanguard. And now for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, they introduced the DMZ mode. Obviously, Modern Warfare 2 being one of those games that brought back the classic storytelling that was first started in Call of Duty 2019 Modern Warfare. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 aimed to go ahead and take the story of the original MW2, take the characters, while also molding them into the brand new, fresh retelling of this brand new Modern Warfare era of games. While incidentally introducing the new DMZ looter extraction mode, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 tried to cash in on another popular looter shooter extraction game mode, Escape from Tarkov. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 also introduced raids as a way to continue the campaign story in more ways than one, aside from the already established multiplayer game mode. And now moving on to a more recent Call of Duty game, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, being the first of its kind. For the first time ever in the Call of Duty franchise, a actual sub-series for Call of Duty released a sequel directly right after its predecessor. Modern Warfare 3 came out the year right after Modern Warfare 2, and Modern Warfare 3 was developed by Raven Software. So we had a different usual, aside from the usual Infinity Ward studio developing Modern Warfare games, making Modern Warfare, and then with it brought back a lot of classic things to the Call of Duty franchise that lots of people enjoyed, such as bringing back the classic perk system. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 basically undid a lot of the errors that Modern Warfare 2 had introduced and a lot of players really disliked, while also introducing for the first time ever an official open world zombies mode, which a lot of players also had their own disdain for, but it was fun in its own right, creating a brand new sect of players. Call of Duty Zombies felt like it was a little bit fractured, but Modern Warfare 3 overall, for what it's worth, felt like a very complete package, with the exception of its horrible campaign. However, MW3 did a lot more right than wrong, and to this day, a lot of people still prefer to play that game than Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which we're going to be talking about now with Black Ops 6. Now we are caught up with the latest Call of Duty, brought back round-based zombies game mode. Again, this is one of the best things that they could have done, bringing the game mode back to its roots, and with it, a lot of fans to really enjoy the mode for what it's worth, while also introducing, or reintroducing should I say, the Call of Duty Prestige mode with amazing rewards spanning all over the Black Ops timeline. For example, Prestige 1, you get a World at War skin, and then just like it, you get Black Ops skins, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, Cold War, and then also Black Ops 6 being the finale for Master Prestige, where you unlock the skin for the cover art of the game. Black Ops 6 felt like a complete package, and they definitely knew how to do the rewards. However, it is muddled down by its other business practices that are out of control of the mainline developers. And with that being said, let me know what you guys think are your top features in Call of Duty over the years. Do you guys agree with what I'm saying? Do you guys disagree? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you guys do like this kind of video, please drop a like button or drop a dislike if you guys didn't like it, and let me know why you didn't like it. Make sure to subscribe for more videos and stay up to date like this, and I'll see you guys all on the next video. Peace out.